Recently I unloaded this pistol and basically trying to eject out the round that was in the chamber. I found out that my ejector was broken because it wouldn't eject the round that was in the chamber. Now it had no problems with function or anything else, but it had a broken ejector. Now is this a problem? No, it's not. It's actually a good thing. And I'm going to go ahead and explain that in this video, how having a broken ejector on a SCCY CPX2 is actually going to be more beneficial. So this gun is unloaded right now, right? And I'm going to go ahead and put in a magazine of snap caps here. And I'm going to put a snap cap in here. So, if you were to lose your ejector, basically the tip of the ejector falls off. Usually it should protrude out to about here, right? So you can see the broken surface right here, where this little piece should be on there. Well, it's got a broken surface right there because the tip actually came right off. Well, that's actually a good thing. And I'll go ahead and show you why. Here's the magazine with snap caps. Boom. So, watch these eject. They still eject. Now, they are up instead of to the side. However, when you have an extractor and you have a bottom ejector, typically it's going to be just as reliable, and actually the angle will be more of, I guess you could say 4 or 5 o'clock on ejection with, hot loads instead of this hand ejection, which is causing it to go pretty much straight up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load a spent piece of brass in here. Now snap caps and brass are not much different in their actual weight. Now this one's probably, there we go, it slipped in. So I got the brass in now, and there we go. I just yanked it back. How did it eject? There's no round underneath here. Well, pretty simply, the chassis down here, it actually acts as an ejector. If you can see those little scuff marks down there underneath the extractor hook, yeah, the finish is worn off down here because this thing acts as an ejector. And if you're trying to eject by hand, it's pretty slow and it's not really going to have all that much force. It has to be pretty light in order to eject. But if you'll notice, the area where this finish is worn off, that's actually where the brass was hitting when I was practicing, and I was using some NATO ammo, some pretty hot, basically plus P rated stuff. So usually the ejector comes out to about here, so just in front of that area. So it's not really quite at the apex of its rearward movement when it hits this. So the chassis is a little bit more of a reliable ejector because guess what? It's not going to break. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, well, on other pistols, the ejectors never break. Well, that's because they're not really big pistols and, yeah, they're made of bigger materials than they need to be, but in this case, the chassis is acting as the ejector. So I think that this actually makes it a lot better, and in my experience, this would be my 4th ejector that I've broken. That's how much I've shot the SCCY. It takes few thousand rounds to actually have this happen, but basically in my experience this pistol will actually perform more reliably with no ejector because the chassis, it's reliable, it doesn't move, it doesn't flex, it doesn't mess with anything, and you get more consistent ejection, and I've never had a malfunction with it. So let me go ahead and show you what it does with live ammo and the technique for removing it. So you basically remove your carry magazine with your carry ammo. Obviously this isn't my reloads, so you try to eject it, right? You even try to rip it back and you still got your round in there. Even granted it's loose and everything, but this might be a problem for some people, right? Not really. It's very simple. You take your magazine and you just push from the bottom. Now let me go ahead and try an empty magazine, see if this works. No, it doesn't, because it's not quite touching it. So you need at least a round in the magazine. And there you go, it just pops it out. And we can do that again. It's very reliable. So, pops it out. So some people might say, well, what if you leave the magazine in and just try to eject it? Okay. It's going to try, but it's not going to work all the way. So there, it's still on there. It's just a little bit loose. So then again, you just tap it in, and it ejects it. So then you're free and clear. And there you are. You're good to go. So just because the ejector is broken doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. Yes, it's somewhat inconvenient to have to basically have this new way of ejecting a live round, especially if you're carrying the gun. However, you know, for the most part, I leave my guns loaded if I'm carrying them. I was just going to break it down and clean it because I had tested it. I loaded it up again, and then I carried it for a few days, and then I was going to break it down and clean it and switch to another gun, and that's how I found out. But anyways, yes, my Sky is broken technically. Am I going to send it back? No. However, if you ever encounter this problem and you need to send it back, if you send this back on a Monday, you most likely will get it back on a Friday or a Saturday. There's not really a long turnaround for these guns, so that's one thing that's excellent about Sky. Or if you feel like you're capable of doing the repairs yourself, I'm pretty sure that they're comfortable with sending you the parts. But yeah, as far as I know, Sky always takes care of their customers, and that's always been my experience. But this pistol, in my opinion, doesn't even need an ejector because the chassis is the ejector. So anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I appreciate all you guys watching and supporting this channel, and you guys have a good one.